He-Man. Right? That's how it goes. I think it does. Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am Paul Herman. I am to be joined here in like 2 seconds. Wait, I did something wrong. 1 second. Hold on. I just stopped myself. There we go. Now I can do it. I am Paul Herman. I am joined today by a friend of mine named Dan Brooks. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I was in the neighborhood.
You were in the neighborhood.
I'd stop by.
The internet neighborhood that we have here.
Just moseyed on over.
Just moseyed on over to some Seattle to where you, North Carolina?
I'm in North Carolina. I'm from New York. Now live in North Carolina.
And used to live in San Francisco.
I was in San Francisco for a long time. So what can I say? I hop around.
Dan Brooks. You're an enigma.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you are a writer and you write stuff, but we're here to talk about something we both love. We talked a little bit about in our meetups in the past, and that's obviously the wonderful Masters of the Universe, aka He-Man. Now, do you call it Masters of the Universe or He-Man? Which one do you call
I just have always called it He-Man.
Okay.
More and more I'm starting to I like Motu.
Word.
Which I obviously had never, before the internet, I never heard it referred to as that. But it's easy, it's catchy. So I fall back on that more and more now. So
as you guys saw at the beginning of the show, we had this beautiful logo. This brings back memories, Holmes. Like this is my jam. This is my jam. So yeah, there's a lot of hype. I don't want to say a lot of hype, but there's a small building of hype with this whole new what is Masters of the Universe Redemption? Is that what it's called?
Revelation.
Revelations. Revelations.
Close enough.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Smith obviously is a showrunner, and I know we're called the Comic Binge, and you're like, "What are you talking about animation?" Don't worry, we're getting there.
It's in the same orbit. It's still in the same orbit.
I mean, I won't lie. I don't like it when everyone's like, "We're a comic channel," and we never talk about comics. It's like, oh, man, come on.
He-Man has a history in comics. I think
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there because I have some legitimate questions because I know you're a Motu fan.
Yeah.
Okay. And a legit Motu fan because I know you'll be texting me toys like, "Oh, have you seen this new toy?" I'm like, dude, I know, but I can't go down that fandom completely down that road because I'll never like eat basically.
Yeah.
You know, I have to dabble. We'll just get into that too because my main
that's how it starts.
Dude, it is because I mainly dabble in my main like fandoms as far as like my pure passions of franchises, if you will, is always going to be Marvel and Star Wars. I just grew up that way, but I always have the dabbling of the Ghostbusters, Motu. Like I love those franchises so much, and like
me too.
I don't love them. Like I don't like comparing them, but I don't like invest in all the things that like kind of give me joy, like I do with Marvel and Star Wars, like. For the same thing for Ghostbusters or Motu or Back to the Future or the other random things like Dune, but I still will buy things here or there. And I love.
Well, I think it's good. I think it's interesting because, well, first, Paul, I want to say thank you for having me on. In all seriousness, I didn't get a chance to say that. I appreciate it. It's good to talk to you. And but it's interesting because I think the Motu's history is messier than those other things.
That's true. Yep.
And you could also, to a degree, Ghostbusters is as well. And I think that might play a part in it, and I think, but for all of He-Man's messiness, I think that's part of what makes being a fan of it interesting and knowing its history interesting. It's something that like kind of came out of nowhere and just was huge. Like I think there are definitely people today who just have no idea how big it was. And then it had like a monumental fall and then some stop starts over the years. And what we're seeing now is like, it feels like the like a real effort to try and bring it back, which is exciting. And, I'm hoping that it works out.
It feels like they've been doing that for a long time. They've been trying every little bit to see what they can do to give the property some kind of legs or give it, its momentum back. I mean, the She-Ra show that came out, which I hadn't seen I've heard there's some people who love it, and there's some people, obviously there's a small part of fandom that hates it and is revolted by it. I have not seen it. I actually like the stylized animation that I've seen, but I guess it lasted 5 seasons. Is that right?
It was 5 seasons. I don't know nowadays in animation production what that actually means. Like, did they do it all before it was, or did they do it all before it was announced? Because they came out in pretty rapid succession. I think the days of like this came out
1 year apart, whatever.
Yeah, like let's see how it does. Oh, you're getting another season. I don't know that was what came into play. Regardless, I watched some of it. I have 2 kids, so it's like I rarely get to watch anything these days.
What I watched, She-Ra?
Well, I don't. Not this She-Ra. I didn't show it for them, but I mean, what I will say, what I saw of this She-Ra, I thought was fantastic.
Really? Okay, cool.
I thought it was great. I'm not. I think a lot of fans had issue with it because in many ways it was radically different. I'm less precious about things in that way. I say experiment and let's see what happens. And I thought, it was a really smart reimagining. And I will say, on the note of my kids, I have introduced them to the original He-Man cartoon and She-Ra, and they both, I would say they both love it, but they tend to hop between things that they like really quickly. So they'll be intensely into He-Man for like 2 weeks, and then they won't look at the toys again for 3 months, and then something will trigger them and they'll pick it back up. Whereas I think for me, when I was a kid, it was like that was it.
Really?
It was like that and Star Wars. But so I don't know. There's a lot to dive into, Paul. Where do you? Is there a place you want to begin with this?
Well, before we begin completely, let me do a little show and tell real fast.
Go ahead.
Because I want to bring back the comics for a quick second before we get to we'll get back into comics with He-Man too. But let me bring a couple things, and I'm gonna throw some things on your radar because I know some of the things I have here. I know you're going to be into, and I know you have a strong opinion about one of them. You have to, or at least a couple, maybe everything. Oh God, I didn't realize I did what I just did. This is gonna be funny. So this is the first this thing I don't think you know. Not that you don't know it, but I don't know if you ever read it. But it is Machine Man by the 2 legends, Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby. Now they didn't work on it together, but they did different runs of the character. And I thought that was very fascinating that both I think Kirby created him, but Kirby and Steve Ditko, 2 obviously huge legends, they worked on the character like almost like back to back, like different times. And I don't know, I think Jack wrote and drew Machine Man.
Wow.
But DeFalco and Steve Ditko, they worked on it afterwards. And I really wanted to read the Ditko stuff mainly because Ditko is just an enigma of a man. Dude is bonkers. And I love that about him at the same time. I know he's insane in a way, but he's insane.
I've never even heard of this, by the way. I've
really
never heard of it. Yeah.
It's a little bonkers. It's I mean it's crazy. It's a crazy thing. He do you ever read Next Wave by Warren Ellis? I'm sorry.
Never read Next Wave. No.
Next Wave. He's in Next Wave, I believe.
Okay.
And I've only read a little bit of Next Wave. I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people hate Warren Ellis right now, so maybe they don't feel too bad for me or whatever. So anyway, this is not Warren Ellis. This is Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. So I got this finally, and I'm super excited to read it at some point. I've been trying to collect all the trades of Kirby. Just so I can just analyze how much of a genius he was, and just because he just is. There's only one Kirby, and Ditko. I mean, I think I love Ditko's storytelling more than I like his art. And he's not a bad artist, but how he puts a comic together, I think is brilliant a lot of times. But I don't always love his art. Like I prefer, if I had to choose between 2 Spider-Man character or artists, I would always pick John Romita Jr. over Ditko.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Romita is just beautiful, and he's a great storyteller. But
You mean John Romita Sr. or John Romita Jr.?
Oh, I'm sorry, senior. If we're talking like iconic, because when I grew up, it was Romita Spider-Man that like was, you know, the big webbing, the space between the webbings and all that. Like that's my jam. Like that's my Spider-Man.
The Thanksgiving Day Parade balloon of Spider-Man was based on Romita art. I mean, to me that is, you know, the Spider-Man artist.
Yeah, and I know, and granted, like even Romita himself would say, "Oh, Steve Ditko is way better than me," and he's a very humble person. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think Ditko is a phenomenal storyteller, and he knows how to lay out a page. But man, no one could draw beautiful people, women, whatever, than Romita. Romita was just unreal and great storyteller.
I can't claim to be an expert on any of these guys, but I mean, I think you can clearly draw a line between like Kirby and Romita to modern comic book art more than you can Ditko. Ditko is brilliant and an innovator in his own way.
Yes.
But you know, Kirby really infused comics with this energy that I just don't think Ditko had. Yeah. I don't think that's not what he was trying to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I that sounds awesome, that book.
No, it's right.
I'd be really curious.
Okay, so I just grabbed the 3 other things I have are actually all connected, and I didn't even realize it. Okay, so I'm very curious your opinion. You have to have read this, at least one of the 3.
Put me on the spot.
At least if you haven't. All right, first one is this is not it, but have you ever read anything besides in the Dark Knight saga besides the Dark Knight Returns?
I read Strikes Again.
Okay.
And I started reading Master Race, but did not finish it. But I was enjoying it.
Okay. So, how did you like Strikes Again?
I know that people hated that book.
Yes.
I never understood why.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of liked what he was doing with. I have to preface this by saying it's after 10 o'clock here, and I have 2 kids, and in parent hours that means it's like 3 a.m. for me. So bear with me if I stumble a little bit.
You're fine.
You know, I know people criticize like the coloring and the art, but to my mind, it was like the early days of digital coloring in comics. I think Miller was not trying to replicate what he did with Dark Knight Returns in terms of the art. I mean, I think in a way it was, I think in a way it was messier, and I think he was okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that one criticism was that in the story, I think they revealed that Dick Grayson was secretly the Joker or something, and that people felt that was a ripoff of the Return of the Joker animated movie. I don't know. I didn't see any way Frank Miller was going to rip off anyone else. You know, in that way. I think it must have been purely coincidental or something. Yeah. But it didn't bother me. Like I still enjoyed the story. I liked what he did with Superman in it. And even, you know, and the art still worked for me. I mean, I still think he's a great, you know, he's like a pure cartoonist, Frank Miller.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what he calls himself, right? All the old school guys don't call themselves comic book artists. They call themselves cartoonists. And that makes sense. You set me up, sir. I can't even believe people. I did not leave him up to this. Like, I can't believe you just totally, I'm like, oh my God, you have just given me like a softball, and I'm like King Griffey Jr. and I'm just going to belt it out of here.
Go ahead.
You just mentioned, so I am talking about the Strikes Again, but you mentioned something. You said this was one of the first digital colorings of its day. Well, let me show you something, sir. The Dark Knight Strikes Again noir.
Wow.
Now cool. This bad boy. Let me just show, because you said what Miller was going for, and I love Miller's work. It's so amazing. Just look how amazing this is, bro.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a different reading experience. This is not. Sure. Let me show you. There's a page of Superman I want to show you that you mentioned, kind of, and it's amazing because when my buddy Chris and I we were hanging out the other day, and we were looking at, like, we put the stuff. I brought it with me when I went over to his house and played video games for a while. I had a blast. Love you, Chris. We put the trades like kind of on top of each other and kind of going through. It was amazing, Dan, how much that they added in digitally than his like line art.
Interesting.
It's crazy. Look at this. Look at this. That's
it's so cool. I mean,
it's a different book.
Yeah.
It's a different book. And you know the person that introduced me to this?
Who's that?
Rob Liefeld.
Really? Did he tweet it out or something?
Yeah, it's on his podcast, and I know he's a lightning rod. I know people hate Rob Liefeld. I like Rob Liefeld. I don't hate his art like everyone else does. Him and his buddy were talking about this book, and they said that they liked it, and I liked it too. I was one of the when I read it, I was like, this isn't the level of Dark Knight Returns. Is like one of my favorite comics of all time, but it's not terrible. And they were talking about it, and they said that there's a reason why people didn't like it or whatever. They talked about that the line when you buy the noir version, it's a much different experience, and it's actually a better experience because you get to see the full detail of Frank's brilliant artwork. And I couldn't agree more. Like I bought it the second I saw it, or he said that, I went, I like the story. I'm gonna check it out. And I haven't read it yet. We're gonna cover it at some point on the Comic Binge, I promise. This is beautiful. Frank
Has Miller said anything about it? Did he write anything for the book, or?
I don't think so.
I'd be curious if he, what he might think of it.
Yeah, he said, "Leave me alone, DC Comics." That's what he said. No. That's Alan
I'm
Moore.
sure. I wonder if they would do it without his blessing.
I don't know,
because he has a pretty good relationship with them.
He does,
and putting out a black and white version to me seems very Frank Miller.
Yeah, but there's I didn't realize. I mean, to be fair, I'm not a huge DC. I mean, I love DC, and I obviously have DC Comics. I love DC Comics, but I'm not into that world as much as I am the Marvel stuff.
Sure.
But I didn't realize Batman has a whole line of noir comics, black and white, like Long Halloween, Hush, all that stuff. We'll have to have you back. We'll have to have you back on for a Batman episode. I think,
okay, absolutely. Please.
Yeah, because first of all, this, you said you haven't finished this. I got this the other day too. This is a deluxe, or not deluxe, but it's a nice hardcover version of this. I had the single issues and I liked it. I'm gonna read it eventually, but I bought it used for like a pretty good deal, and I'm like, I had to pick it up. So, but you said you haven't finished it, but you want to?
Yeah, that's the version. That's the one that I have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was enjoying it. I mean, I also like that I don't know. I like that he revisited it. I agree. I mean, it would have been very easy for him to just like walk away from Dark Knight and leave it alone and say that's it. But he seems excited about this thing he made, and I always, I appreciate that when creators kind of, embrace what they made.
So I gotta tell you that I think that a lot of people, I know, I remember liking what I was reading from this. I mean, Kubert's art is just. He's unreal. I mean, the dad, the brothers, they're all amazing. I think this last thing on my show and tell, and it'll be your turn if you have anything to share, Dan. But I think I was telling you like last year or somewhat recently of like about this. And I don't think you knew about it. And I was like, dude, you need to read this like now. It's so good. This is the same universe. This is why I grabbed things. I didn't realize they're all connected. This is the Dark Knight Returns. I think it's The Last Crusade. Excuse me, by John Romita Jr. and Frank Miller and Brian Azzarello. And a lot of people. Sorry, I'm trying to get have the lights on it. A lot of people would criticize Master Race and Dark Knight Starts Again and say that it just lacks the quality that the Dark Knight Returns had. I would agree to that to an extent because Dark Knight Returns is like. It's untouchable. Yeah. This isn't on the same level, but I think it's my favorite of all the things that are sequels, prequels, whatever. It's a prequel. I'll just spoil that one. That it's my favorite thing that's not connected. There's not directly the Dark Knight Returns that's in the same world. It's my favorite. John Romita, and John Romita's art, John Romita Jr.'s art in this is a lot of people like to criticize his art. For whatever reason, I love it. Is it always perfect? No, but no artist is. This, in my opinion, I haven't read or seen the art they did with Tom King's run, but what I've seen of DC work, not been my favorite of John Romita Jr., except this. This is so good. I mean, oh God, it is a great story, and it's a very compact story, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's not like a long-winded tale. It is.
And Miller wrote it?
Yeah, Miller and Azzarello wrote it together, but they did the same thing with Master Race. Like I think Azzarello essentially, I think, scripted it with Miller, like basically doing the heavy work. Whereas Miller, would be like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and he's kind of like the director, if you will, not really
Sure.
the artist. Let me just show this here. I'm just gonna spoil a page here. Sorry, look at this. Look at this art. Look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
I love John Romita Jr.
Oh, same, dude. Same. It is gorgeous. I love it. I think this is by far his best DC work. It's great. And this is one of my favorite, maybe one of my favorite Batman stories. I don't know. I haven't read it in a long time. When I read it years ago, I freaking loved it. So anyway, do you have anything to add to yeah. So go read The Last Crusade, please.
I will. I wasn't prepared for show and tell, really.
Yeah,
I have a bin here. Since we talked a little He-Man, and we'll be talking some more.
Yes, we are a lot of He-Man.
I'll just really quickly. I posted about this on Instagram, but my parents came to visit recently. It was the first time I saw them in over a year, and basically they want me to get my crap out of their attic. So they brought a ton of my stuff, including many but not all of my He-Man figures, my original ones. So they brought like 20 of them. I got Thunder Punch He-Man right here. I'll just show you a couple.
Yes, please throw them out. Come on, let's do it.
Battle Cat with saddle still attached.
Oh, that's impressive. I lost my saddle like before I can remember.
I got Tongue Lashor.
Oh yes, I had him.
Still works,
dude.
I love this guy.
Mine broke. See, your insignia is still there. Mine wore off because I played with it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's impressive, dude. Keep going. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Who else? Oh yeah. This was one of my favorites. Ready?
Oh, I didn't have him. Oh, that's so
cool?
rad.
My kids love this one.
Dude,
it's awesome.
The Snake Men are so good.
I know, they're great.
They're great.
One more. All right, here's a OG Skeletor. I got one weekend. I'm just going to spend a day cleaning these guys up.
Yeah, man.
But the legs are attached by rubber bands.
Oh,
so
been there. Yeah,
they're pretty. He's, no pun intended, pretty much on his last legs with these things. They're falling apart.
Man.
But yeah, so
that's a great.
You can't see it. You can probably see it. There's like a shelf behind me with all my stuff. On the other wall, the perpendicular. Yeah, that's the Motu case.
Oh, okay.
And they get their own case. It's not filled yet. These guys will go on there. I've got some classics. I've got a bunch of the new Origin stuff. I pretty much bought everything in the new Origins line. And I usually don't do that, but I was so excited to have He-Man back that I basically bought everything, maybe one or two.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's a great segue actually, because we're obviously going to talk about He-Man and everything, and we'll get to like kind of our predictions maybe for Revelation. I almost said Redemption again, but yeah, I guess growing up, because we're about the same age. You're a little older than I am, like barely a year. I'm just right behind you. We're approaching the 40, Dan. I'm almost there.
Enjoy your 30s while they last.
I've only got a few months left. But no, when I was a kid, I grew up, and again, the things I grew up loving that were things I was born into: Star Wars, Spider-Man, Marvel, and He-Man was probably the third. My brother and I also grew up we watched Back to the Future and Ghostbusters all the time, besides Star Wars. But like those are probably like the things I grew up with immediately. I had a crap load of He-Man, He-Man characters. Excuse me. I had Grayskull, I had Battle Cat, we had Skeletor, all this stuff. And I mean, I watched the cartoon religiously. My dad liked to watch it with us. I mean, it was, I grew up with it all around me, and it was just something that I loved. But it was just kind of, I didn't know, like, I don't know if it's because my brother loved it and I inherited that from him, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was a natural thing. I don't know. But regardless, I grew up and I loved it. And I bought the toys. I'm curious, do you have a memory that you were like, where you discovered it, or were you like me, where you just kind of born into it, like Bane, like I was born in it? Thought you'd like that.
Well, I was so young
Yeah.
that a lot of those memories are, to quote Leia, they're images, really, feelings. That's for you. There's one right back at you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, but really, that's kind of what it's like.
No, I got you.
Like I don't have a memory of being exposed to it, So I was born in 1980. I think He-Man, at least the toys came out in 1982, right? So, and then I am not sure when the animated series starts. I was definitely exposed to it through the animated series.
Yeah.
But I have certain memories around it, right? Like it's weird in general just how memories work. I mean, I remember, I was born in Brooklyn. I lived there for a while. I remember going out in the backyard when we had a big snowstorm, and my mom and I built Castle Grayskull in the snow. I remember.
Do you have a picture somewhere? Like
I don't have a picture. I do have a picture from Christmas morning, 1983. So I would have just turned 2 because I'm born in October. Christmas morning, I would have just turned 3. And I'm sitting there with I got Beastman for Christmas.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So I was clearly already a fan by that age.
Yeah.
I remember, when Modulok came out. How excited! Do you know Modulok?
Is he the neck guy? Not neck and neck. Which one's Modulok?
He's got 2 heads, and he comes with a bunch of different arms and legs you can attach. He was like a real deluxe figure.
He was he way later? Because I don't remember
him. A little later in the line.
Yeah, I don't remember him at all.
He was awesome, but I just remember how excited I was, and I can remember still living in Brooklyn. I got him, and the package was still closed, and I woke up really early in the morning just to look at it because I was so excited. So I've got these certain memories around it, and it's weird because it was so huge. I also remember there was there was a tour where it might have been called the Heroes of Power tour or something, where it was almost like how the Turtles had that rock show.
Yeah.
It was something. Yes. It was like that. They didn't play guitars, but it was like He-Man and She-Ra doing this tour. And I remember my dad took me. I remember going to see the movie, and I remember. So this is weird. I distinctly remember feeling like, who are all these new guys, and why didn't they just use Beastman? And which is funny because I think that's what a lot of fans felt at the time. But then I saw it a lot on cable, and I just kind of came to love it through that. And I think there you go. There he is. I'll be back.
Look at that.
That is great makeup.
Oh, it's great. Langella, dude. A legend. Freaking legend.
So, and also the designs in that movie, by the way, speaking of Jack Kirby, it's just Jack Kirby's all over this movie as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, so, it was there, and then it kind of faded for me. I think as it did for most kids as other things came along,
to really quickly add to the Masters of the Universe movie. So growing up, I didn't really, and like you probably too, Dan, we didn't really realize what was coming out, right? Like my dad would be like, "We're going to go see this." I'm like, "Huh? What's that? Like, what are we seeing?" My dad, we had a very, we were always super tight growing up, but the one thing we always kind of connected on, he liked science fiction fantasy. He loved that stuff. And I don't know if that's where I got it from, but that's one of the only things we ever really could connect on. And he loved taking me to the movies with that. Like he took me to see Willow. I mean, he was stoked. Like my dad was not the most he's very much on the moon,
Right.
That whole thing, right?
Yeah, my dad's actually the same way. I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It's weird, but he also you could tell he get giddy to go take us to the movies and see these movies like Willow or whatever. But I distinctly remember he seemed super excited about Masters of the Universe because we were all excited, right? I remember watching it being like, why are we on Earth? And this is a side note, and this is so funny. And I know people are like, I don't care about this part, but I don't care. oh my god, Charlie and what's her name? Courtney Cox's character. Crap. Anyway, Charlie, I know his name. Charlie and Courtney Cox's character, Julie. Charlie and Julie were literally on a soap opera my mom watched all the time called All My Children. And those are their same character names.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That must have been confusing.
My mom was like, oh my God, Paul, they're the same kid. She called it Kids. She goes, oh my God, Paul, they're the same name on Kids. I was like, you're right. Because I recognized them from there, especially Charlie. Not as much Courtney Cox, but I remember Charlie. I distinctly remember, like, hey, he's from All My Children. As a kid, like I totally got it. It was weird.
That's great.
But I loved
He-Man meets All My Children.
It really was.
You've been waiting for.
By the way, there's one scene that's amazing in it. One scene that I is just like my friend and I, we connected on it immediately. A couple months, like last year, we just both just lost it. There's one scene with Charlie. Do you know what I'm talking about? Scene when he's being attacked. What does he do? Do you remember this? Does anyone remember this? Someone in the comments, speak to me. Come on. And people, please comment. I love these things. Let's see what people are saying. Anyone has some guesses? I didn't realize
where are the comments. There you go.
Yeah, they're right here. I'm in control of the comments, sir. It's me. Excellent. It's mainly Jarrett, which I really appreciate you coming on. But people, come on. Yes, Fourth World. Exactly. I like that. It's a good call. Whatever. Yeah, word. She did that. She did dance with the boss, and I love Bruce Springsteen. No, so if you rewind the scene where they attack Charlie in his room or his house, Charlie literally throws a towel at Beastman. Like,
right. Yeah. I watched it about a year ago. That sounds
it's
right.
It's so incredible. Like, as a kid, like my brother and I, we like lost it. Like oh my God. Oh, it's so good. He threw a towel at Beastman.
Well, I think I teased you once on Twitter because I think you posted a photo or something from the end fight scene with He-Man Skeletor where He-Man swings down, Skeletor meets him.
Yeah.
And clearly like Skeletor was not anywhere really near where the sword was landing, and my comment was just, what is He-Man swinging at right now?
Whatever.
It's clearly just for the shot. I say that with love.
Yeah.
You know what I think? I think after watching it last time, which I watched for the first time in a long time, probably since I saw it on cable as like a kid, was if you remove the expectations of He-Man from it, it's actually a fun 80s action adventure.
Absolutely.
Right?
Agreed. And my main, because honestly, I liked it when it first came out. I didn't think it was that bad, and people like talk crap about it. I mean, I recognize it wasn't the level of Star Wars. Like,
I never hated it.
Yeah, but at the same time, what I thought was interesting as a kid, and it bummed me out, was they actually had some amazing character designs. Like the costumes were fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I thought
they're awesome.
Like, okay. And so, I've only bought one recent Motu figure, and that figure is Sarad. Sarad has always been one of my favorite characters. And I literally, it doesn't matter when the first time I saw it, or the second time, or the fifth, or I watch it now, I always get a hint of rage when they kill Sarad. Because I'm like, why are you killing the most interesting character? He looks amazing. But it's obviously because he was expensive, and the canon people did not want to spend money with which again I understand, but I just get so bummed out. Like, why'd you kill Sarad? Sarad's so amazing. Oh, he legit looks like something straight out of like Star Wars. Like legit, like amazing looking. I love Sarad.
All the designs. Evil Lyn looked great. I thought even God Skeletor at the end is
so good,
incredible.
I need that figure. I need that figure. I need to get that. I'm not sure if it's hard to get.
They did a great job with those.
Oh, so good. Looks so good. It was weird to get in Orko and Gildor. It was weird to get like even as a kid, I'm like, why did I get they probably couldn't do Orko. I got that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's funny that even as kids we recognize that. Because I really remember feeling that, but like, it was like as long. I feel like you could have done Orko in a way without having him fly around. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, He could have been like Yoda, that you just walking around with his face covered and have floppy ears. Like there could have been that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Ultimately, all these years removed, it's like I appreciate Gwildor now.
I liked him then too. Yeah.
And not to jump around too much, but did you read the Masters of the Multiverse crossover?
No, but thank you for bringing back the comic books, because that is on DC Universe right now, and I need to read it. And did you read it?
I read it. It was like appointment reading for me, which
really?
like as soon as it was coming out, I was like getting the issues. It's awesome, and it's really a love letter to all of the incarnations of He-Man, like literally all of them. And it made me really appreciate the movie, I should say, in a big way, because it embraced that so much. You know, and in fact, without spoiling it for you, I mean, movie He-Man is like the main protagonist in that book. So you know, I think you would have a ball with this comic. It does this great job of balancing fun, the fun of He-Man and the goofy aspects that are in some areas of it, while making it feel like this is the most important thing that you've ever read. Like the stakes are super high. I just loved it, and it's a book that I'll revisit. You know I'll revisit it all the time.
That's high praise from you, because you like comic books, you love He-Man. And I'm like, okay, you kind of won me over. I kind of was like, eh. It was funny. I was going to ask you about it, because I remember you telling me, you were kind of raving about it to me, I think a while ago. And I was like, oh yeah, because it's cool. I mean, I'll revisit it, whatever. But now you've said that, I'm like, okay.
You should. I would totally recommend it. And Tim Seeley wrote it. And Tim Seeley he's a huge He-Man fan and true believer, you know, in He-Man. And like, he just did a great job with it. Even the stuff that New Adventures of He-Man, the late '80s reboot, which I didn't know a ton about and I didn't get into as a kid.
Yeah,
like, you know, that stuff is in there, and he treats that with respect. You know, and he really well done.
Did before we move on, I know I love talking about the movie, because I will adore it forever. Me and like John Beerley and Justin, we rave about that movie like constantly. You know, we always talked about it. But one thing I think that the movie actually got right, and I'm curious what you think, is maybe this is controversial. I'm not involved in Motu fandom as much as maybe I should be, but maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. I hate saying hot take, but
go ahead.
but maybe this is an unpopular opinion, if you will. I kind of think they got the aspect of He-Man right, as just kicking the crap out of Prince Adam completely out of the picture and just being He-Man. I thought that was actually a really good call, and I kind of think that's the way to go to connect to an audience, because you could do the Captain Marvel thing, which is fine, but it doesn't really make. There's something about it that doesn't. It only works, I think, on an animated level. But in the context of film, it just kind of makes sense. Like, you know, like, I don't know. I'm curious your take on that really quick.
I don't know. I you know, to me, the Prince Adam thing, as a kid, it never bothered me. You know, I never noticed it, I guess. And especially the fact that it's like, I could buy Clark Kent Superman. Prince Adam is like, especially the way it was in the original cartoon, where he really looks the same. It's a little, you know, like looking at it through adult eyes. Yeah. It's like, oh, so he got a little tanner. It's a totally different person. I think you have a point. The only thing is that connection that Prince Adam has to the kingdom.
Yeah.
I think adds a lot to the story, you know, to have him being the son of the king, and to have a human mother. I guess it depends on what continuity you're going by, but like, you know, I think that's interesting. If you go back to the original comics, like the original story before the cartoon, He-Man was, and I'm not an expert on this. Yeah. I mean, He-Man was not Prince Adam. Like, that stuff came from the cartoon. Like, He-Man was kind of granted like the armor and the sword by the goddess, like out in a cave somewhere. It was a totally different thing.
The sorceress or a goddess?
The goddess.
She's a goddess. She's called the goddess in this.
Yeah, she basically had green skin. She looked like Tila.
Oh wait, I just saw her for a second.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
okay.
it's not Tila, and it's not the sorceress.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and then so now, like with modern He-Man storytelling, I think they borrow bits from all different interpretations.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you have a point. I guess it would have to be like, what are the ramifications for the rest of the universe the parts that we like,
Yeah.
Because
well, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, one thing I've always felt is that He-Man has like a really deep bench of characters.
Oh yeah.
I know, like when the description for the new Revelation cartoon came out, and they, at least in the description, they were kind of putting forth Tila as like the story revolving around her. Mm-hmm. A lot of fans were kind of like, what? And I was like, I would watch a Tila show,
heartbeat, yeah.
I think she's a great character. And so,
Fantastic,
so the thing is, like, and Tila's relationship with Prince Adam I always thought that was really funny, that she's like, you're a wimp and a loser, and I'm trying to train you and protect you. Meanwhile, like, she has no idea that he's He-Man. Like, to me, that's still funny. So I don't know. It's like, if they find the balance of whether he's Adam or not, I could go either way, as long as it doesn't sacrifice everything else about the universe that I like.
And really quickly, I think you could have all those things you were saying, like Prince Adam could still be King Adam or whatever, and he can still have those things, but he could just get the power, like almost like he transformed into He-Man one time. Like it was a one-time thing where he became a bigger, like almost like he becomes Captain America in a sense, as from the Super Soldier Serum kind of thing. That's what I think you could go with, and that would be interesting. Either way, I think you can make it work either way. But I do with Tila, which I was watching the 2000X series. We'll get in that in a minute. I definitely feel you on Tila. I've always liked Tila in the show, in the original Filmation show, but it's crazy to think about that. Tila essentially is a better warrior than He-Man, but she's just not as powerful. Like she doesn't have the power, like literal power. But she could kick the crap out of him if all things being equal. She'd lay him out, which I love. And I love Man at Arm and Tila's relationship. I mean, from the adoption angle, I've always loved that angle. So growing up, as we get older, I'm curious going into the 2000X series, because I didn't watch the space. I did not like that stuff. Whatever. Was there something after the space, or was that the New Adventures of He-Man? The He-Man
that was New Adventures.
Okay, wasn't into that. I hated it. He-Man looked weird with his blue pants. I didn't like it.
I remember I never saw the cartoon on TV. At least I have no memory of it. But I do remember going into KB Toys, and they had the new Adventures of He-Man toys. And I remember seeing He-Man and being like, "That's He-Man."
The logo was different.
The logo
sucked,
and I was like, "No way!" Like, I was so turned off by it.
Yeah, exactly. He was a different person.
Yeah, it's like now I think about it, and I'm like, He-Man in space sounds kind of rad. Like you know what? Like, I'm open to that now. But I don't know. Maybe they
not that He-Man.
Maybe the execution was just off.
Yeah, I think on paper it's a cool concept, but when you add let's make him look completely different and make Skeletor look like a living goat creature. Basically, I know. He looked terrible.
Yeah. Have you ever watched any of those episodes?
It's been a minute.
I've watched a couple of them because this is another part of my He-Man saga. But I introduced my son Jack to it before Ben was born. We watched the Christmas special together, which was a lot of fun. That's become a tradition. But he just wanted to watch, I just put on anything He-Man I could that we could watch together. And I started watching the New Adventures because I was curious. And the Joker's voice, Skeletor's voice in that is way different. And I learned this by listening to, I think, the Purple Stuff podcast. Shout out Purple Stuff podcast. that the voice actor was trying to do the Joker, like to bring that into Skeletor. And if you just put on any of those episodes, you'll totally hear it, that that's what he's going for. It's an interesting take. I could see that, but it's to me, it's just not the character. It's a little too off. There's a comment here, by the way, by Jared. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But he says, originally the Teela figure was designed to be two separate characters, Teela without snake armor.
Oh man, Garrett, you're dropping knowledge. I didn't know how big of a fan you were here, man. Like this is awesome. All right, Garrett, just stay tuned. I mean, you may be called upon at some point. Just FYI. Thanks for pointing that out to me, Dan. But like maybe we should do sometime. We should like do a thing where we do like a live commentary of He-Man in space, whatever. Because Adventures. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. So
I would love to.
We should just do like a thing where we I could put it on and be like, I don't get it. You know
what it feels like? I'll say it feels a bit like they had this idea for one show, and then somebody was like, we need to do something with He-Man. Like He-Man is dead. We need to revitalize this. Oh, we have this other thing coming. Put them in the show. Because it's like they go to they leave Eternia, they go to like another world, and it just feels so far removed from the He-Man aesthetic. The only things from are He-Man, Skeletor. That's it. Everything else is new, and it doesn't really feel that much like He-Man. It's not a bad show. It's just if you love classic He-Man, it's a bit of a tough pill to swallow.
So actually, before we go on to 2000X, because this is something that I discovered from my Motu, just kind of again being a bigger than an average fan, but not like a crazy fan like I am for Marvel and Star Wars. But one thing I didn't realize, which maybe I did and I forgot, was basically what I just showed earlier was these things, the mini comics, and I had no idea the mini comics until I watched like the documentaries, like the Toys That Made Us and the Power documentary. Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's and they're both great. They're actually I want to rewatch them again because they're so good. I had no idea that He-Man was originally only a comic book, with the toys. I had no idea. I had no idea until a couple years ago. I went, am I just stupid? Did I not realize?
No, I didn't either. It's okay. I think the comic was the cartoon was so massive.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we think about, but it actually, that's the origins of it. Is those comics.
These things are so rad. Like this.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I literally got this today, and I'm not lying. I don't know what it is. I have like good intuition, I guess, because I bought this right the day before the announcement of Revelations. The day before, I'm like, man, I need to get that. I need to get some Masters of the Universe stuff, and I'm like, I should go buy that mini comic on it, but it's only like $20 on Amazon, which I'm really glad I got. That this thing is like,
if you have any interest in Masters, get that thing before it goes out of print, because for years, people trying to collect all those mini comics on eBay and stuff, and it was expensive and you couldn't do it. It is awesome that thing exists.
It smells great. Ain't gonna lie, it smells like comic store. It's great.
Garrett, you're not commenting too much.
Garrett, no, never. I want more people to comment, but you're kicking butt, dude. I love this, So hold on. No, Garrett, we love you. Don't worry. So yeah, like I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because I feel that maybe it's because we're younger. That's why, because I think with the older kids, maybe it might have remembered that or collected those things. But yeah, when I did, like you said, like you can actually get this. It's all over the place. I don't think it's going out of print anytime soon, because it's actually got a little bit cheaper everywhere, especially Amazon. It's only $18 on Amazon.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer,
dude. This is, if you like comic books, it's just $20. Come on, nothing. I can't wait to dive into it and read it. Maybe I'll have you back on. We can read it together.
Yeah, man,
that'd be fun. Do you have this one?
I have it. Yeah, I also have Dark Horse. I have these too, and actually, they just came out with a new one. But Dark Horse has put out some great books, unlike the Arta book. Yeah, Arta book, character book, and they just put out Toys of book by Pixel Dan.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and that one, I just got it. Just came out. I was leafing through it, but it's awesome.
So funny story about that before we move on here. Because like you said, Dan, I'm like, man, I better buy this before they go out of print. Because and there's a lot of them. They've been out for a while. My brother has the Art of book, which I bet I can steal from him at some point, forever. But I need to buy that because I love the art, the original art. That was all that stuff. It was great. But I wanted to buy this, the comics. But the one thing, and again, I was thinking about buying this before I even the Revelations was got a release date. I hadn't bought it yet, but when the announcement came, I'm like, I'm buying it right now. Is that character compendium? Yeah, compendium.
Yeah.
That thing was like 500 pages, and it sounds amazing. I haven't got it yet. I ordered it on Barnes. Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Yeah.
When I was reading, like it's like all eras. I'm like in.
Yeah.
In.
No, it's great. And if you want to dive further into the world of Masters, it's just a great resource to have. They did an amazing job with all these books.
For sure. So, Dark Horse does great work, man. Their art of like the just Star Wars stuff like they have is great. Like Rebels and for Fallen Order. They do a great job of compiling everything and I love the old Dark Horse Star Wars omnibuses too, like the digest stuff. It's funny, it's because my eyes are so bad. I do love the bigger stuff that Marvel puts out just because it's easier on the eyes, but there is something really cool about how like this is still like the aesthetic of the mini comics is kept.
Right. It's not something enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's great. It's great. So going into 2000s, we're both in our early 20s. You're just getting out of college, being a hot shot out there in the writing world. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
Not at that time. Looking for a job.
I got you. Were you watching the 2000X series?
Yeah. I watched the first few and then I lost track of it a little bit.
Same.
And
I liked it.
I loved it. That pilot is incredible.
Oh, it's so good.
I just, I still remember, and I've since gone back and watched the show. But just the siege of the castle and, Keldor's face getting burned off. I was just like, oh my God, this is what I always wanted. Yeah. And, I was on the Roast Google Dinner He-Man podcast once.
No way, you're on that? Sweet.
Yeah, I was on that.
Yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, it's a great podcast.
Great podcast.
Yeah, and I talked about this, but when that show failed, I was like depressed over it. It was just like, because my feeling was this show is so good. It's like what my memory of He-Man is, and what I wanted it to be as an adult. That like if this didn't work, then what could work? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because how are you going to improve on this? And that's the one thing, about Revelation that gives me a little bit of pause is that I think it looks fantastic what we've seen of it. But so did 2000X, and that show still holds up. And it's like, maybe it came out at the wrong time. I don't know. But the thing is, you want these things to be a hit so that it could go on. And He-Man to be successful really needs to bring in a younger audience. Yep. And, it can't just be us liking it. I know that this show seems geared towards our age group. And there's also another He-Man cartoon on the way for kids, which I think is great. Yep. But, so I'm excited. I'm super excited for the show. I think it looks great. I think everything I've heard about it sounds good. I just don't want to have my heart broken again. Because also I don't know how many more chances Masters would have, if this doesn't work, because that was 20 years ago, man. If this, and we're going to age out of this stuff. So it's like, if
already aged out pretty much. I mean,
you know what I mean? I just so if this stuff doesn't work, I don't know what that means for the future of He-Man, as much as I hate to say that.
Well, here's the thing. I think you said it best. I think it's just wrong timing because I don't, it was such a quality show. I think anyone who's any kind of He-Man fan could watch that and be like, this is so good. I remember I loved it. Like you, I was just not at the right, for me, not just because I wasn't a kid, but I was I was playing music constantly. I was,
Mhm.
buying. I was just music was my life. I mean, it was like just putting it in my veins, and
Yeah.
that's all I did. And I tried to watch it, but I didn't have a VCR or I had a VCR, but I just didn't. It just wasn't on the top priority list. But I tried to. I had some friends of mine who collected the toys. They were
Mhm.
big time. They're huge He-Man fans, but mostly because of the toys and that they liked the show and they watched the show, but they were collectors and they said they liked it, but they didn't really talk about the show. They just kind of talked about the toys. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. And I'm sure you probably have heard like what happened. I just discovered this. And maybe I heard it a long time ago and forgot, but
Mhm.
what happened the second season, why he got body armor? Did you hear
I
why he
think I
got?
know what you're gonna say, but I think I
No,
know.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, go ahead. No, tell me.
Is it because kids didn't like they didn't like the furry underwear, right?
Well, they said he
Like,
was naked.
yeah.
And I was like, it was funny. I heard that. I went, they're not wrong. Like, I'm like, they're not wrong.
My son Jack made that point. He said, "Why is He-Man not wearing pants?" But like, but I mean, you think about it. Like when He-Man came out, our generation, like Conan had come out. Like it was the '80s. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone.
Shirts
Like we
off,
were
guns
like,
out.
yeah, that was the era.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. Now it's like, is that going to connect with kids? I think if they've released an image of the CG cartoon that is specifically geared towards kids.
Oh, they did?
They have, yeah. There's like a
Oh.
poster that's out somewhere, and he's
Oh.
wearing pants.
I'm not surprised. I am.
It's
not
silly that we have to
surprised.
talk about this, but
No, this is a
but,
great because, but it's true because what you're talking about is exactly why it hasn't stayed on, because it is very much of its time as far as the original look of it is very 80s in nature, which isn't bad because I think the designs are all there.
Mhm.
But just like with any it's like you can't all do Spider-Man where it's like a home run right out the bat, right? Like, meaning you can't just become a timeless character and never have any kind of changes. Look at Batman. Batman's gone through all kinds. Costumes the same, but it's gone through a bunch of iterations of like different symbols and blah 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 blah. I mean, Spider-Man's been like the same.
Yeah.
There's been like maybe a little bit of like the black spider in the middle gets a little smaller, bigger, or whatever, but like the actual costume, besides like the black costume or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. It's very hard for these characters to have the same costume over and over again. And with He-Man, like you brought up a great point, is the 80s that's what the 80s were right there, was the 80s Macho Man. And that's like probably, and it sucks because that's literally the main character is a byproduct of what its era it came from. So you immediately are not aging yourself, but you're putting yourself in a limited box by doing that. And your son's a great example why, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I look at He-Man and Skeletor, and I look at them and I think that they're great designs, and I do think great designs stand the test of time.
I agree. 100%.
I think to your point, it's like, to make an analogy. So I don't like it when they've tried to redesign Superman.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people say Superman's costume is a leftover from like the strongman era with like the underwear on the outside and the tights and everything. But to my mind, like superheroes came to own that look, and it's iconic, and it lasted for 70 years, 80 years for a reason. So then you go changing it, you throw off the balance of the costume. I think that can stay. With He-Man, I think it's also a successful design, but I think it's one that you could update. I think it's one of, like you're saying, I think it's something where it's like, if you want the property to move forward, this is one that you can play with a little bit.
Exactly. Well, and I'm actually going to bring the picture up here. I'm going to add it here in 1 second. It's one of those things where you need to update it to an extent. Sorry, I meant to go there in 1 second. Oh my God. Amateur hour. That's what this is. This is amateur hour.
You gonna make your Lou Gehrig speech?
Yeah. No, but what I love about what they're doing here, and I want to show everyone this. This is actually really cool. I think this is really cool. One second here. I don't want to be on top. Hold on. Singing in the rain. Dan, say something. So I don't feel so weird.
Sorry. Today, I feel like the lucky. Where'd the echo go?
It's me.
I thought I heard my own echo.
It's me. I'm out of control.
Right. We're gonna abandon that.
Yeah, whatever. It's all good. No, I'll find it somewhere else, or maybe someone can give it to me or whatever. But anyway, yeah. I just looked at it. It's a little weird. I'm gonna lie. Like He-Man's pants are interesting. I'll say that they're. I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? I mean, that's the thing. Is if it is very stylized, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's something that I will say for sure. He looks very stylized, but
it's tricky because it's like, at what point do you break it? You know, do you change it so much that you break it? So you know, it's not an easy task, you know, because this is an iconic look for us, but it's also, you know, this is another part of the messiness of the He-Man story. Is I think that. Despite the fact that He-Man kind of, you know, disappeared after reaching such heights, and they did try to bring it back, I don't feel like the brand was kind of cared for in the right ways for long stretches. Like it went dormant for a long time. Like there was nothing in the 90s, you know. Nothing. They tried with 2000X, and then there was nothing until they made Motu Classics in 2008. And that was very niche, you know. Yeah, super niche. It was nice that they were doing that for fans and kind of keeping the heart beating. But in the general pop, you know, in pop culture, like He-Man really kind of disappeared. Whereas things like Transformers, G.I. Joe to a lesser extent, you know, they were continuously out there and reinvented, you know, to keep introducing them to a new audience. I think, you know, we'll see. Like not that I am an expert on this or have seen much of it, but one thing that comes to my mind is like the My Little Pony reboot, which like was huge. So it's like, what did that do right? You know, like great story, great world building. The designs were updated, and they introduced like new elements to the story with like different kinds of ponies, from what I've seen. So, you know, but that was like enormous. You know, the new She-Ra show to another extent was like, felt very modern to me. Like I liked it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with the new one. But for now, it's like, you know, without kind of putting all these expectations on the shoulders of Revelation, just as an old school He-Man fan, like I look at those images and like I'm really excited. You know, if you push everything else out of the picture, it's hard not to be excited about it. You know, and because it looks like they're really treating it with the care that it should have.
Yeah, and to talk about Revelations, Ed, I got to tell you, I almost feel that this show is going to be kind of I don't want to say a send off to the character for us fans, but because of this new show coming out and with everything they're trying to do to revitalize the property as far as to a newer audience, to a younger audience, I almost feel like Revelations is like our last kind of hurrah as these hardcore old school fans. I don't think that's like I don't think that's their intention maybe, but I almost feel that that could be like, let's give the fans before we put out this show and everyone gets pissed off. Let's give them what they want. No, but seriously, like let's kind of give them a little love letter. Like, hey, we see you. We recognize that this is stayed relevant because of you. Here you go. And now let's let the kids get a new thing going. And that makes sense. And I think there's a lot to that. I think if we're gonna get this, you know, to me, an animated show is gonna be great, sure, whatever. I think a live action is where it's gonna be. I mean. Look at the success of not just The Mandalorian and how that Baby Yoda and all that stuff has kind of gone crazy with families, because that's the thing I think people are really not taking into consideration. And this is for Star Wars, more so with Star Wars and other things than honestly, is that the family aspect, that you can sit down with your family and everyone kind of gets a little bit out of it. And that is such an underrated aspect. People want to say, let's identify with the kids. And that's, yes, but I think it's also for everyone to kind of come together too as a family, because that's what Star Wars was to me, and to a lesser extent Masters of the Universe, because my dad liked it. He loved watching He-Man with us. It's something you can watch with your family, that you guys can kind of get everyone on together on the ground floor, or kind of come together and say, yeah, I don't love animation, but I could watch a He-Man show or Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like animation's a little more directed at a very specific audience. Live action's different. And I feel that if you want people to not, and again, you don't just want kids, you want everyone to feel invested in this. I think you have to make some kind of live action film or series or whatever to connect to today's audience. I think for a younger audience, sure, for toys or whatever, but I think if you want to get the brand kind of revitalized, you need to have that hit show or a live action show or movie to connect to connect to fans. Because I think, like you said, She-Ra was successful. It lasted a while. They kept putting out seasons, whatever that means. And I saw people talk about it on Twitter. And it's I always go to the whole Dr. Dre thing, where it's like, he'd give the people in his neighborhood his beats, and see if people weren't bumping it, he'd be like, that sucks, and I'm going to put it out. I'm not going to keep working on it because no one else is bumping it. And so I say that because on Twitter, which is like, fandom's number one place to complain about things besides Reddit, I saw people, yes, badmouth it, but the audiences that I was a part of really liked it. Like a lot of people we're friends with or acquaintances with, whatever. I would see them talk about how much they liked it, and it was a very common thing. I saw more positive things about it than I saw negative. And maybe it's people I was being around, but people were talking about it, and it lasted. If people weren't watching it, I feel it wouldn't have gone on as long as it did. Probably, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's my assumption. So I feel that if Masters of the Universe animated show can do, like, bring some people into it or whatever, I think it's the live action movie that will bring it to the next level. And that's what's been obviously in production hell for so long, right, Dan?
I know.
We all know these movies have been in the development hell, but the one, go ahead. I was
gonna say, so I have a few thoughts about this. And
please,
I think,
please.
So the first thing I'll say is I'm a defender of the Filmation cartoon. I think that there's goofy stuff in there, and the animation is limited because of the budget, but there's some really strong episodes. And obviously, the characters are all great. But I think that show has a bit of a perception like 1966 Batman. Right. And I think that they need to overcome that perception. They need to figure out a way. I think 2000X was an attempt at that, but since it was not huge, like the feeling of the Filmation cartoon still lingers. They need people to recognize take He-Man, I think, a little more seriously. And I think the Kevin Smith show is going to be an attempt at that. I don't know that you can come out of the gate with a movie with people while the image that people have in their heads of He-Man is the Filmation cartoon, and I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about like the greater popular culture,
Right.
Maybe maybe not. It took Neil Adams and Frank Miller to erase, Batman 66 from the greater masses vision of Batman. Right. So I think He-Man needs that. If you go looking, you can find that for He-Man in DC's comics and in 2000X. But I think what really would be key is that Revelations comes out, it's critically acclaimed, people watch it beyond the hardcore, the kids cartoon comes out, and that has success. And I think those two things are key for this thing.
Absolutely.
For Masters to really have a renaissance, and probably for the live action movie to actually get rolling, for people to say okay, now we can invest money in this.
See, it's funny because I almost feel that you're not wrong, and I do think that Revelations will. I'll be honest. I think the pandemic even though I think by knock on wood, everything will be open hopefully, or closer to being open, or whatever by then. But people are still going to be trepidatious to go out and go to theaters and whatever. And so my point is that people are being more apt to go watch Netflix and try different things. I think that's why Invincible, I think, has been so huge. I mean, granted, I love Invincible comic books, so we'll cover in that at one point. We will, trust me. That is going to be covered. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that because we're going to be coming out of the pandemic and people are still going to be not wanting to just jump out there maybe right away, it'll be something for them to watch. And they've already watched everything else, right? So
maybe this is good timing.
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it might be I don't think it's going to go crazy like viral where it's going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. But I do think it has potential because it looks interesting. I do think Orko looks a little too 90s for me. I'm curious what you think about that. The one picture I saw, I was like, why does Orko look like he's from an Image comic from the 90s?
I thought he looked like 2000X Orko. I'm sure they looked at everything.
Well, he's got like mean eyes, and he's got he's kind of ripped, isn't he? Is he kind of like?
Is he ripped?
He might be ripped. I thought he was ripped. Like I don't know, whatever. But I guess for me is I kind of think that the live action film is what's going to, I think, to truly bring the Renaissance out. And but and I think you and I are definitely in agreement that this world is such a rich base. The fantasy element is so nutty, and the mythology is so there. It could easily just be a gigantic hit. And one thing maybe we'll have to do like on a different show, maybe on this one, it's not really comic related, but it'd be fun to do, is read the Grayskull script by Justin Marks. Is that his name? That's online. You can get it. You can get anything online, Dan. I don't know if you knew that. But I've heard it's great. And the premise is awesome. Like
what is this? I'm not familiar with this.
After we're done, Dan, I'll send you a link to something. Okay. It's a YouTube video, and I could do it in here too, but I'm just too lazy to bring it up, to be quite honest. We'll wrap up here in a minute. Sorry. Thank you so much for coming on and talking so long. It's been over an hour.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. It's crazy, guys. But no, I'll send you the video because it's about the history of cinema. It's a pretty cool YouTube channel, to be honest. I'm really bad with the names. I subscribe to it, but it's like Supervoid Cinema or something like that. Anyway, it kind of like chronicles the live action He-Man stuff. And when I remember I've heard about it, and it sounds really cool. It's almost like Lord of the Rings ish kind of take on it, where it really dives deep and really goes hard on the mythology and really tries to wrap the viewer in that way. That'd be cool to kind of read that, maybe a live reading, or we can just read it together. Yeah, it'd be fun. Because it definitely it takes all the continuities of different things and puts it together.
And this was in development, or this was one of the scripts that was being considered?
Yeah, this is one of the many scripts that was in development. And I want to say it got greenlit, but it's never, I think Goyer was actually, because it was definitely like the Batman Begins age of stuff, where it's like, we've got a ground floor, what a reboot. And Goyer, I think, was attached, if not before or after. He was either after it and was like using elements of that. But it's I want to say people love it. Like they definitely say it's a good thing to kind of base things off of, at least from that standpoint. But I heard it's also very expensive from which most of those first drafts are, right? It's like, just go crazy.
I have an idea. Set it on Earth.
Oh God, no, stop it. This is not about He-Man's mom, Dan. Come on. I mean, whichever continuity it is. So really quick before we wrap up, did you read the comics? It sounds like the newer DC comic.
I read a lot of them. I have the omnibus, but I've not finished it. There it is.
Yeah. I actually own most of the single issues. I have not finished it myself. Maybe we should do it on a future show, Dan. Maybe I'll have you on and read some comics.
Sure.
I need to read this. I liked because this was first Keith Giffen and James Robinson were writing this together, I think. James Robinson is the first person, the first writer. Robinson's a legend. Dude's written everything. Philip Tan, speaking of image guy right there. Also, this is the ongoing. My boy Hordak, right? Is this Hordak or is this someone else?
No, you know who that is?
Is that Hordak's like
actually,
girl or something?
That is. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you.
Don't spoil it for me. No spoilers here.
I'm not going to say who that is.
Thank you. But she looks like Hordak, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying. By the way, did you know that Jeff Johns himself wrote some Masters of the Universe at one point?
Did he write it in? Is that what it is? That his? Yeah,
that's it. He wrote one. He wrote one comic.
There you go.
I
will say what I've read from. What's that?
What character is this again? Is Battle something? What's his name? Robot. He's a robot character.
Is that Roboto?
Roboto. Yeah, Roboto. Yeah, it's him.
Yeah. Cool. So I've read a lot of the omnibus, and I find the early goings of the DC stuff, not like the vintage stuff, the modern era, to be a little hit or miss.
Okay.
And then I don't know. I don't remember if it was like the writer changed or what, but then it picks up steam. Specifically this era, the cover that you're showing now.
This is the one you're saying is really good.
That's where it picked up for me.
So this is James Robinson right here. This was the mini series. This was the first 6 issues, like a limited series, and then it had 3 origin issues: He-Man origin, Skeletor origin. I have all those.
Yeah, those are okay.
Those are yeah. But then this got written by Keith Giffen, excuse me. Obviously, him and James DeMatteis wrote Justice League International. A very much loved the brouhaha era. Is that what they call it? I don't know. I'm not. What do I know about DC Comics? But what's interesting here is how I'm not sure how far you got in the series, Dan. This was later picked up after Giffen was off. Dan Abnett picked up.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And he's obviously responsible with Lanning, Albert Lanning. I called him Albert and Landmine back in the day. I forgot their names. But they together wrote the Guardians of the Galaxy.
They brought that back, right?
No, they created Guardians of the Galaxy for all intents and purposes. I mean, their iteration is what people think is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Not the OG Guardians that I knew, that I still am like shake my head at and go, come on, Marvel, where are they at? Where are they at? Where are they at, James Gunn? Where'd you deliver?
I'm going to say I think Marvel made the right decision with what they did.
Agree, disagreed. No, actually, no, I'm kidding. I legitimately love that the Abnett and Lanning era is so good. It's so, and doesn't get enough praise. It doesn't.
Great.
It's super good. Like it's
I really do like it was the Guardians of the Galaxy movie that redesigned Star-Lord, right? Like with the red. No, was that in the comics first?
Well, I mean, the red, whatever, but like it's the helmet that makes it. I mean, like
it's the helmet that makes it, but they made him made him look roguish.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's not that hard. You throw in some dark colors on him and your trench coat. Come on. I mean, it's not that hard. Come on.
I don't know. I'm a sucker for that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but the helmet's what makes it. The helmet's incredible. That's true. I love that helmet. Ironically enough, Keith Giffen wrote Star-Lord's miniseries in the Annihilation Wave. He wrote Annihilation.
It all comes together.
And Lanning and Abnett and Lanning wrote Nova. Whoa! Well, hold on a second here. Woo! It's getting crazy in here.
Well, back to He-Man.
Yes, back to He-Man. Yes, it's comic binge though. Binge.
But I would say, no. So this stuff is good, but again, Masters of the Multiverse.
Okay. I don't have that picture.
I can't recommend it highly enough. It's so much fun.
All right, man. I'm gonna read it, and then what I'll do is we'll read that. We'll read a bunch of. We'll just binge. We'll just binge. We'll just read it all, Dan.
Well, let's set ourselves a deadline for the DC stuff, and maybe I'll finish it, and you read and I'll reread Masters of the Multiverse, and maybe we can have a big Masters comics talk.
All right. How about this? How about let's reconvene around the same time next month. and let's.
Okay.
I'll let you pick. We can do multiverse, or we can do we can do a DC story. Whatever you pick. You decide.
I want you to read Multiverse. I want to read it again. So let's do that.
Done.
Okay.
It has been decided, and I'll buy the trade right now. My wife will get mad at me. Sorry, Morgan. I love you. Let me buy comics, please.
Sorry, Morgan.
No,
I apologize. You can blame me.
She knows I don't need a reason to buy comics. I blow too much money. She knows. She yells at me. I love her. Dan, this has been awesome. This has been great.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. This is really fun.
No, you have blessed me and my channel. Thank you.
Please.
No, seriously. Like this has been great. I'm excited to have you back on. I imagine we'll talk about Motu a bunch, and I'm excited because it's like, I don't know if you've watched the Alien episodes I've done with my buddy, from Alien AVP Galaxy, but we've been, I have an Alien Predator section now where we talk about that stuff and like the comics there. I know it's something great, dude. Cool. And it's just really cool that I'm able to do this. And now I have maybe a Motu thing. I've got my Star Wars thing with my other friend. I mean, like, no, I'm serious. It's crazy. I'm like, that's great. I've covered all the bases.
If I can be your Motu friend, that will make my year. So
I'll just say this. No. Honestly, you've already been the Motu friend. Like you and Justin were the first people, but Justin's hard to peg down, and as you probably know. So I told him, I'm like, I'm hanging out with Dan. He's like, oh, I got family night. Well, I get it, Justin. But he'll come on. I'll get Justin on. I'll get Bulger on here. Justin will get on here. He loves Motu. He loves Motu. I showed him the picture. Oh, I said this. I'm like, you've seen this, right? And he was like, yeah. I was like, good.
We'll get him to read Multiverse or Masterverse, and maybe
you're asking the impossible. You asked the impossible. Not because he doesn't like comics, because Bulger's his own. He's his own man. He's his own man. But true. I love you, Justin. You know this. But he'll get on. He'll come on at some point. Maybe we'll talk. He called Redemption. Why did he call it Redemption?
Because it sounds lofty, just like Revelation.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Dan, where can people follow you on?
They can follow me on Twitter at Dan_Brooks, and they can follow me on Instagram at @TheRealDanBrooks. And if I can give a plug, I will.
No plugs here.
No plugs?
Oh. No, you're good.
Well, I also do a podcast. We're on a little bit of a hiatus right now because one of our hosts is in the middle of a move, but it's called It Came From the Depths of Netflix, and we watch bad movies on Netflix and talk about them. And you can find that wherever podcasts are available for free.
That sounds exciting.
So,
have you done Carnivore at all on those?
No, we never saw. I don't think Carnivore. Maybe I don't know if it was on Netflix.
I'm not sure. Has it ever been on Netflix?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I know of Carnivore.
My buddy really want to watch that. He's been bugging me.
Yeah, no, we end up watching a lot of bad modern stuff. Like Netflix doesn't get. They don't seem to get like the old B movie stuff, but we find a ton of really bad new stuff. That it's like, why, like, who would watch this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, someone's gonna watch it, so you have to watch it, right?
Yeah. It gives us it helps pass the time.
That's awesome. Right on, man. Well, dude, thanks again, and
thank you.
Yeah, no, this has been great. Like I can't believe how much time has already gone by. I'm like, wow,
yeah, it's fun.
It's crazy. Everyone, please subscribe, like. I probably should say this at the beginning, but I just don't I don't plug myself very well, so whatever. Please like, subscribe if you're watching this later. Thank you for watching, and like I said, we're going to be doing more in-depth stuff for Motu with my buddy Dan here, apparently, which is amazing. So please follow us on Twitter, subscribe, like, all that stuff, and as always, read more comic books. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If I can